Yes, sir. You sound great.
Yeah, brother Ali, it's an absolute honour to have you on the podcast. Big fan of your music, have been for years. So thanks for doing this today.
Thank you, Mark. I'm happy to talk to you, man.
First of all, the first question that popped into mind is when people ask about Brother Ali, I always send them. Well, recently I've been sending them to the Uncle Uzi Taught Me song, which is probably one of the greatest storytelling tracks I've ever heard. And it's crazy to me that that's a true story. And you're basically rapping in Iran, which is illegal. And could you just tell us a little bit about what actually happened there, mate?
Yeah. Well, I got invited to go to Iran to go to speak at a conference, and the conference was about the subject of police violence in the U.S. in the states towards African Americans. Now, I know that that's a controversial thing to do, but many of my heroes have done exactly that. It's a strategic way of really looking at the moral realities and the moral hypocrisy of America. People like Paul Robeson did that. So when America is pointing their finger at another country like Iran and saying you have human rights violations, and that very well may be true, but the U.S. also has human rights violations, and so for us to go, it was a group of artists and activists and lawyers and educators and spiritual leaders that went to Iran to basically hold this conference. Um, that it's something that I knew could be controversial, and I knew that it would be a little provocative, and I was willing to take that risk. Also, I really wanted to visit Iran because it's a beautiful country with beautiful people. Some of my dear friends were going on this trip and really and had been before and really loved it. So I figured I'd give it okay, I'll go. So I went there, and the first day I spoke at the conference, and I did my songs a cappella. So it was something like spoken word poetry. It's illegal. Rap is illegal in Iran, not because they hate rap music, but because of the fact that they know that even if another country never invades you, especially with America and the West, America, UK, Europe, even if they never invade you, um, if you take their culture, then eventually their people will demand a government like theirs. They'll because that's what the monoculture does. It's not really Western culture anymore. It's global monoculture. It's consumerist culture. These aren't the original cultures of Scotland and Ireland and the UK and Germany and the original cultures of the US. This is global monoculture. So they say if that gets in here at all, then we're not going to be us anymore. So I respect it, and
So just to clarify so spoken word poetry is okay. So is it just when you put a beat to it, it becomes rap music in their definition?
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They actually have an extremely rich history of poetry. So I mean, a lot of people know about Rumi, and but I would say the other biggest poet in the Islamic tradition is Hafiz, Hafiz. And I mean, anybody that hasn't read Rumi, Rumi, and Hafiz should read those two. They're some of the most amazing poets that ever lived, and they talk a lot about the realities of love. And Hafiz is really about sincerity. And Hafiz is a Muslim scholar, but he's criticizing people that pretend religion and people that are self righteous. So it's like if people that say like I don't like organized religion, you should read Hafiz. Like Hafiz is he's your man. Anyway, so yeah, so you can do spoken word poetry. They love it. They actually champion it. It's part of the government honors it. It's considered like one of their national art forms, like the same way that maybe cricket is for some countries or baseball for the U.S. It's like a national pastime for them. Um, and so, the second day though, I did my presentation, and the organizer said we really wanted to hear your song called Uncle Sam Goddamn. So I said
It's a
okay,
great
and
song.
thank you. So I said okay, so and they said would you please do it with the music? We want to hear the music. And I know that that's not legal, but they had some of the like Shiite clerics at the event, and I know that they're representatives of their religion and also their state. It's a state religion in Iran, and so I know that they're also representatives of the state, so I asked their permission, and they said yes. And I had actually met them the day before, and they were very sweet to me. I'm not a Shiite, but I mean, they were very sweet to me. You know, they kissed my forehead. They thanked me for, you know, I honored them. They honored me. It was very beautiful. So they said, go ahead. So I had the music on my iPad, and uh, played the music, and I stood at the podium, which says the name of the hotel on it, and I did the song. People liked it, and then about right after that, I got rushed away to go do an interview. And when I came back 20 minutes later, they said, your performance is all over every station on Iranian TV, which are government stations. And I didn't even know that was a possibility. And what I came to find out is that the people that invited me, they had an agenda where they wanted to show the government of Iran that hip hop is okay. So what they said, okay, we'll have this American rapper doing this song that's critical of the U.S. government, and we'll show it to the Iranian government, and then they'll see that like him doing this in Iran, you know, uh, is something that would be considered good. But they didn't tell me that. And then the other part is that I didn't communicate. There are rappers in Iran who have to be completely secretive because they could get arrested, and some of them like move to other countries so that they can actually rap because they you know. So to them, it's to those rappers and those MCs, that hip hop community, it's very disrespectful for somebody to show up and rap on TV when they're not allowed to do that. I never checked in with them, you know, and I realized like, oh, these people, these organizers tricked me into doing this. And you know, it just didn't feel right. So I said, and also I was getting death threats, and people knew what hotel I was at because it says it on the podium that I was rapping on, and they keep playing it on TV over and over and over again. So I'm like, okay, I'm in Iran, I'm doing something illegal on TV, I'm getting death threats. Um,
So were you getting
you know,
death? Were you getting death threats from You were getting death threats from both the hip hop community and people who didn't like hip hop, and you're upsetting locals, but you're also upsetting America potentially because you're sort of criticising the American government as well.
yes,
So you're just sort of basically annoying everyone.
everybody,
Yeah, yeah. So what was
everybody
your thought?
except
What was
everybody
it?
except my friends.
Yeah. So what was your thoughts at this point?
I thought it was a very real possibility that I could die.
Yeah,
Um, the other part of this is that the phones don't work. Like our cell phone doesn't work in Iran. Um, there's very, very limited access to the internet. So when you can get some Wi-Fi on your phone, you just have it maybe enough to update your emails. Also, a lot of social media doesn't work in Iran. It's blocked. Um, and it's just very difficult to communicate. And then also, my credit cards don't work. Also, I can't go to a cash machine, an ATM, um, and take money out. So it's just really like I'm really, you know, I can't get an Uber. I
yeah.
can't, you know what I'm saying?
So you're just basically you're thinking I need to get out of here, but I'm assuming that your return flight still had a few days before it was due to leave.
weeks. I was supposed to be there
Weeks.
for two
Yeah.
weeks.
All right. I
Yeah, I
see.
was supposed to be there for 2 weeks. So I go to the airport. I took my last the little bit of money I had, went to the airport. Get to the airport. There's only one flight a day on the airline that I'm on. It only flies out once a day. So I have to wait till nighttime, and it flies out at like midnight. So I have to wait till midnight. So I'm already in the airport for like 12 hours. Wait till midnight. I don't have any money to eat. Um, you know, I get finally I go to the desk, and they say you can't just change your flight. The person that bought your flight, they have to come here and change your flight. So I was okay. I'll just buy a new flight home. Um, okay, but my credit card doesn't work. So what do I do? How am I going to get out of here? And I don't have the money to get back to my hotel. So even if I wanted to go back, I can't.
Yeah.
And then to get to like when you check in the hotel, they hold your passport. So in order to get my passport back, I had to check out of the hotel. So I was in the airport for about 2.5 days. Um, Finally, they came and got me. They said that they had put out an alert. They said if you don't come back, they sent one of my friends to the airport, and they said if you don't come back, we're going to put out a security alert. There's an American missing in Iran, and the police will be looking for you. So I hadn't eaten, I hadn't slept in a bed, I hadn't, I basically was just standing my suitcase up and like laying my head down on my suitcase to sleep. I had a few dollars left from the cab, so I was buying cake. I was buying like slices of cake so that I wouldn't pass out.
They have good cake in Iran, I've heard.
Oh, their food is amazing, and the
Yeah.
people there are so beautiful. Like the people there are really beautiful people, and it's just so then finally things got worked out after several days of trying to get out. I finally got a chance. I finally left, and the organizers ended up changing my flight for me, um, and I finally made it home. But then once I made it home, then they put me on this status called 4S, which means the highest security alert possible, where they still let you fly, but they interrogate you, they check everything, and that kind of comes and goes. Sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't.
So yeah,
Um,
so when you're on, are you on? Have you started your tour just now? Obviously, we know that you're coming to Scotland soon. Are you already in the middle of that tour?
well, we did the U.S. part of the Shadows on the Sun tour, and when we come to Scotland, that's when we begin the UK part,
Yeah,
the
nice
UK
one.
and Europe part. Yeah, we're actually starting in Glasgow. I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, well, it's always a good night in Glasgow for. Yeah, have you've played Glasgow a few times?
I have, and a lot of people in the U.S. don't know their ethnic like heritage, and so I've been pretending to be Scottish my whole life. Like I've just been saying it, you know what I mean? Like, because actually, my mother was adopted, and she used to say that we were part Scottish, and so I've just always just believed it.
Yeah, have you mastered the accent yet?
I know that's disrespectful to me, so I don't do it
No, okay. So
because my ear doesn't know the difference between Ireland, Scotland, and then there are parts of also England that sound similar to my ear, but I
yeah,
know to
see,
you guys they don't sound similar at all.
well, I don't know. I do agree. I think there's certain parts of England like Newcastle. I mean,
Yeah.
Newcastle probably sounds more Scottish than parts of Scotland. So, yeah, I could. Have you listened to any UK hip hop before?
A little bit, but I don't listen to as much hip hop as I don't listen to much new hip hop. Um, like I basically once I started making rap music, there are some artists that I listen to, but I don't listen to a whole lot of hip hop anymore. And it's not because I don't think it's good. It's just that I spend so much time making hip hop music that I don't like. I want to listen. I usually end up listening to the records that we sample. So I listen to jazz music and um, Turkish music, Brazilian music, um, gospel music. I don't listen to a lot of hip hop once I started making it, and that's also when I started traveling. So I
Yeah,
mean, I have heard, I love Low Key, for example, um, and there are other artists that I really like too. But aside from the people, and I love Akala a lot,
yeah,
but
yeah.
those guys are like, they remind me of my friends in the U.S. So like that,
Is
it
there
doesn't
a-
even feel like a different type of hip hop.
Yeah, is there anyone in the US that we might not be aware of that we should maybe be listening to ourselves?
There's a woman named Sa Rock, SAROC.
Yeah,
She's incredible, and she's kind of my one newer favorite that I listen to all the time.
and just going back to that, you were talking about records that you sample. How does the writing process work for you? Is it do you focus? Do you just go away and write lyrics and then bring the music together, or are you working on the getting the beats first and then writing to the beats?
I always write to the beat.
And is it sort am I correct in saying it's the producer from Atmosphere that you tend to work with quite a lot?
Yeah, and he's the one that I've worked with the most. I've
Yeah,
I've done some work with Jake One. I've done a few things myself. Um, I've actually been hanging out with a different producer lately, but we won't say anything about that until we start putting music out together. But there is another producer I've been hanging out
nice.
with lately.
So, when it comes to the actual writing process, do you write a lot and then just edit it down, or do you find that it comes quite naturally now? Obviously, you're a very experienced writer now, so I'm just wondering if it's do you write lots and then just take the gold out of it, or or is it quite a sort of natural process when you write to the beat?
Um, I usually write to the beat, and I write. I really kind of edit as I go.
Yeah,
So by the time that I reach the end of a verse, that's the way the verse is going to be.
yeah,
Once I go to spit it, and then also I'm partially blind, so I don't read off the paper very well, and perform and like record it at the same time. So normally what I do is I write it, and then I record like a demo version of it, and then I listen to that, and if I like it, I listen to it until I memorize it. And when I go in the studio, I've already memorized the song.
yeah.
And so during that process, a lot of times I'll change little things if there's just too many syllables, or if I could add an extra little something that rhymes or something, I'll maybe change a little bit here and there. But I usually do the editing while I'm writing, and then there's not much editing that happens after that.
Nice one, nice one. And I've noticed that the song is fairly new. Sensitive, was that? I think it's a year or two old now. Brilliant song, and I noticed that you referred to the fact that touring 7 days a week for 5 years is taking its toll on your vocal cords, among other things. Now, are you planning to do less live shows, and what advice would you give to artists to avoid burnout?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of artists, hip hop artists, and also singers, we damage our voices, and nobody really teaches you about that. And
Yeah, I just recently had an operation for a vocal polyp myself.
oh,
So
you did?
yeah, yeah. So before I start doing the live shows, a lot of live shows, I'm going to try and take the whole idea of warming up the voice a little bit more seriously, because, like you said, nobody tells you, and you don't think about it until you've maybe already done some damage.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of the guys that are older than me, like KRS-One's voice is profoundly damaged, and he's got one of the best voices ever in hip hop. And when you hear him now, you hear that his voice is damaged. DMC, of course, lost his voice from Run DMC. Um, Kendrick Lamar has vocal damage. I mean, his voice sounds really cool, but if you listen to him on his early records until now, he has vocal damage. Um, my friend Sage Francis actually had that operation as well. I mean, Adele had the operation, Stevie Wonder had the operation. A lot of people have had that operation. And maybe I should get it. I don't know. I just, I'm there are nights when I'm on tour where like my voice will be rough, and it makes it almost impossible because my whole performance is my voice. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? I don't. It's not like I'm dancing and jumping around on the stage and all that stuff. I'm, you know, I move my body with the music, but for the most part, it's about me rapping. And if I can't rap, then it makes it really, really difficult. So,
yeah. So do you
yeah, I
do
mean,
any do you try and do any vocal warm ups or anything like that?
I do
Yeah,
some of that, and also I don't. Part of what I realized is that, yeah, I didn't take my rest seriously when I was younger. So now, resting the voice is really important. Sleep is really important. Water is really important. Limiting caffeine is really important.
and unfortunately,
Um,
all those things are the opposite of what the industry is, which is dehydration, stress, not sleeping enough, and using your voice constantly.
yeah,
And usually, most people need a lot of coffee to get through these punishing
yeah,
schedules.
yeah, and I don't have any. The my two vices are sugar and coffee. Because what I'm saying, I'm Muslim, so I don't. drink or smoke or you know what I mean, any of that kind of stuff. Um, and so for me, the things that are like when I'm on the road and I'm tired or I feel down, if I'm going to if I'm going to go to some kind of substance to make myself feel better, it's going to be sugar and coffee.
Yeah.
And those are the worst things for the voice. I mean, alcohol is bad for the voice, smoke is bad for the voice, but in terms of the things that are still in my life, those things are really bad. So it's just it's an ongoing kind of struggle, and
So have you been when you've been planning out the tour for this record? Have you been uh, thinking about that and maybe doing less shows or giving yourself a bit more rest?
yeah. Well, we don't do 7 shows a week anymore. Like we used to do 6 shows every week, 7 shows a lot of weeks. So we would go 2 weeks without a night off sometimes.
So did you just take Mondays off? Was it just I don't do Mondays idea?
Man. So I teach a class. I teach a like I have a I teach Islamic spirituality at home in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis. So when I'm in the U.S., this is bad, man. Like this is how addicted I am to talking and like running my mouth. On Mondays when I'm in the U.S., I fly home and I teach a class for 2 hours. That's me talking for 2 hours straight. So
Yeah,
yeah, we don't, so Mondays is a day off, but it's not really a day off. And then, yeah, we usually do more like, we try to do 4 or maybe 5 shows a week now instead of 6 or 7.
yeah, that's good. Is there any advice you would give? Just the second part of the question, just for any up and coming artists to avoid burnout, not just with the live thing, but maybe taking too much on. Is there any tools that you would suggest for people that are maybe taking too much on?
I don't know if people would take this advice because even if I was given this advice, I don't know if I would have taken it. Um, when you're young and ambitious and you have it, especially if you feel like this is my shot. I mean, every single show that I went into, especially in my 20s and really for most of my 30s too, every show that I got a chance to do, I was trying to absolutely do something above and beyond even my own ability. And, you know, so there's a point in your voice where you can, really what you're doing is you're not letting the microphone do its job. You're not letting the sound man do their job. Uh, and you're, you push your voice beyond the beat, like above the music. I was trying to make my voice cut through the music. And there was a pitch that I can still do it, but there's a pitch that I can get to that cuts through everything. And that should really be something that we do for certain moments of the show. And I
Yeah,
was doing it for a whole hour and a half performance. And another thing too is a lot of times when we headline, we do long sets. Um, we don't just do a 45-minute set. If we're headliners, it's going to be at least an hour, usually between an hour 15 and an hour and a half. And so I've just kind of learned that I don't need to be at that complete upper register for the whole show, and it actually makes it so that when I do go there, it's more powerful. So it's like anything else, man. It's just like young when you're young. Um, a lot of times we have is energy, and what we don't have is wisdom. So we use our energy on 10 all the time. And then you learn wisdom and you hope you get why you hope you learn some wisdom before losing your energy. And that's what I feel like has happened to me. So like I'm
if
40 and I feel like I still perform at a very, very, very high level. But I'm a little more wise with it now, so I just
just
don't have to be.
you're just picking your battles better, basically. And yeah, would you say you've ever had any moments of synchronicity or weird coincidences that stick in your mind that have changed your career or your life for that matter for the better while you've been on your journey?
Yeah, I mean it's full of those. Um I think anybody, you don't have to be considered an artist to have this, but anybody that understands their life to be a journey that, or it's a collaboration between us and the source. between us and the essence, between us and the unseen, between us and, some people will say the universe, some people will say God, some people, and there are different ways of understanding that, the seen material world of space and time is, at least, at the very least, has a relationship with the unseen. I believe it's actually governed by the unseen. I think that the unseen world actually governs the seen world. And us living in it is the collaboration of those two. So anybody that sees it that way, that understands that it is a journey, um, has moments where things just come together in ways that you never would have planned, but they're better than anything you could have planned.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've got one more question for you, because I don't want to take you too long. I know you're very busy today. It was Frank Quinn asked me to ask you if what it was like to do a song with Public Enemy, and how did that come about?
Yeah, well, it's interesting when you ask that last question. That's what I was thinking about is
Well, there's some
how they.
synchronicity there,
Yeah, I mean,
some Skype synchronicity.
yeah, I mean, really, yeah. So all of my heroes, there's only one or two that I haven't come in contact with yet. But and these are my musical heroes, my political heroes, my spiritual and religious heroes. There's only one or two that I haven't met yet. I've met almost all of them, and they've all embraced me at some point. Um, but Chuck D is one of the really really special ones because, um, not only did he appear, he appeared on my record, which is, people do you a favor sometimes, but then he asked me to be on a Public Enemy record, and that was really big. And Chuck D is somebody who's really accessible, down to earth. Um, you know, I call him the sheikh of music. Like he's the way that the sheikh is in Islamic spirituality, where you have a master, but all they want to do is serve their students. They're not they won't let you treat them like a king. They want to serve you, and they really just want to hang out with you, and they teach you by hanging out. That's how Chuck D is, and so that out of all the people in hip hop that I know, he's the most valuable and precious one to me.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time today, Brother Ali. I hope that the tour goes brilliant, and I hope to see you in Glasgow when you arrive. And is it a new album? Is it already out, or is it about to come out? Or
Well, we had the last one that we did was All the Beauty in This Whole Life in last year.
yeah, that's a great album.
Um,
I really enjoyed it.
thank you. And so I am working on something new that I hope to put out this year. We'll see how it goes. But I hope that I have a new project this year.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time today, and we will see you in Glasgow. Thank you very much, mate. All the
Thank you,
best.
Mark. Appreciate it, brother.
Okay.
Appreciate it, brother.
You call that radio? No, you call that radio. You can actually call that radio on a phone number. It's a real thing. You just phone. You call that radio on 07340 508 500 07340 508 500. Call that radio 508 500. You call that radio on 07340 508 500. Give us your thoughts, your opinions, your questions. Doesn't matter if you're mad with it at 4 in the morning. We're always here 24 hours a day. Might be a voicemail, but we'll check it the next day. The kettle is always on. I mean that metaphorically, because it would be very environmentally conscious to keep your kettle on, especially if you didn't know anyone was arriving. Just call that number. You call that radio 07340 508 500. Hello, you call that radio. How can I help you?